I asked you to send me some questions. Now I'm going to answer them. Okay, so recently I sent out a link asking you guys to send me some questions so that I could answer them in this video. Now, I'm also going to post that link in the description so you can ask me some more questions and I can make another one of these videos in the future. But you can also comment on this video if you don't want to use that link. But with that being said, let's just get into the questions. What was your first experience with Doctor Who? Now, for me, this is a really difficult question to answer because as far as I can remember, Doctor Who has always been in my life. And I do really wish I did have that one memory where I first remember watching the show. Just so that when somebody asked me this question, I have an actual answer. But unfortunately, I don't remember the exact point that I started watching it. I always like to think that I started with Series 1 back in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston. But I'm 21 now, and that would have made me 3 or 4 years old when that aired. So I don't know if it's realistic to assume that I watched the show back then. But as far as my memory goes, that's what I remember. Maybe I'll have to ask my parents if they remember how I started watching the show at some point and see if I can update you. What is your worst personality characteristic? Now, at first, I didn't think I was going to answer this question because I honestly couldn't really think of anything. But then I realized I am quite a big procrastinator. If I need to do something, I always leave it to the very last possible minute. And that can also be said for YouTube videos. I'll have videos planned out and I'll try and tell myself when I'm going to record the videos and try and get them done in advance. But ultimately, I always record them at the very last possible second and very rarely stick to the plans that I try and set myself and tell myself to do. What's the best looking episode of Doctor Who? Now, I'm gonna go for quite a boring generic answer here, but it is because it is the first thing that pops into my mind when I think of the best looking episode of Doctor Who, and that's Heaven Sent. Obviously, a lot of people praise Rachel Talalay's directing, and she probably is the best director we've had in the show. So it's great to see that she's coming back for the 60th anniversary specials and hopefully other episodes of RTD2's era. Although I'm fairly certain at this point, unless there's a block 4 director for Series 14, that she's not going to be in Series 14. But I think a lot of people fail to praise the cinematographer or director of photography for this episode because they obviously would have had a lot to do with how nice it looks as well. Now, some other honorable mentions would be one of my favorite episodes, The God Complex from Series 6, as well as the episode Listen from Series 8. I think they do some very interesting stuff with the directing. But off the top of my head, those are the only ones I can think of right now. I'm sure there's a lot of others, maybe even some that are better than those that I just can't think of at the moment. Does the Doctor go to the bathroom? Now, I don't write the show, so I don't really have an answer for this. Personally, I would assume that, yeah, they do go to the bathroom. Besides having 2 hearts and being able to regenerate and maybe a couple of other things, I don't think Time Lords and Gallifreyans, for that matter, are that different from humans. So I assume their biology works in the same way in that sense. And I'd be very surprised if there isn't a bathroom in the TARDIS, at the very least just for the companions. But yeah, I'm definitely not the person to ask for this. So you could either ask the writers of the show, or I'm sure Davis has probably mentioned this at some point in one of the episodes of Broke Canon on their channel, which is a series that I would definitely recommend watching. But for me personally, I would say, yeah, I think they probably do go to the bathroom. Do you have any tattoos? I don't have any tattoos, but I have been wanting one for quite a while now. Since I was even not old enough to have a tattoo, I've wanted one on my wrist, just something quite small and simple, but I've just never really figured out what exactly I want. I have definitely considered some Doctor Who related tattoos at some point. I did want to get my name in Gallifreyan, but I think I put it into a Gallifreyan translator and it just kind of looked a little bit boring. But if there's some other phrase, like maybe a quote from Doctor Who or something that I could get in Gallifreyan that looks a bit nicer than just my name, which looks quite boring, then maybe I'd consider that. But yeah, I just haven't decided what I want yet, but I do want one. What was your favourite subject in school? Now, when I was doing GCSEs at secondary school, I was very into media studies, which is probably where I get most of my knowledge from editing from and my love for editing and making these videos. And as I went to sixth form, I did try and keep that up. I did photography and I also carried on doing media studies. I did eventually finish photography and pass, but with media studies, I kind of started losing interest in it when I was in sixth form and dropped it, and instead started to focus more on social studies. So I did psychology, sociology, and criminology all at A level, and I now do sociology at university. But obviously I still have a love for media, and that's mostly the reason why I do this YouTube channel in the first place, because I just had a desire to carry on making videos and editing, but didn't have any reason to do it. And I also obviously just wanted to talk about Doctor Who because I talk about it a lot anyway and bore a lot of my friends with it. So that's part of the reason why I do this YouTube channel in the first place. What was your favourite show when you were a kid? Now, I'm going to go for the boring answer and the obvious answer and say Doctor Who, because I honestly can't really think of much else. So yeah, Doctor Who. Have you ever cried during a movie? Yeah, I've definitely cried during quite a lot of movies. The one I can think of most recently was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, because I just remember it hitting really hard when I heard that Chadwick Boseman passed away, and the end of that movie just really like hit me when it happened. I'm not going to spoil it just in case people haven't watched it, and on a similar note, a lot of the other ones I can think of are actually in Marvel films, which is weird. Basically, anytime Tom Holland as Peter Parker is crying in an MCU film, I'm probably right there along with him. He just somehow manages to do that to me every single time. And that's all the questions I have that I thought were worth answering this time. Like I said, I'm going to leave the link in the description to this video and probably in a pinned comment as well. So if you do have any more questions, feel free to ask them, or even ask them in the comments if you want, and I'll make another one of these videos in the future if I get enough questions. But with that being said, if you want to watch any more of my videos, YouTube thinks you'll like this one. And yeah, thanks for watching.